I think for me, the thing that as I grew up and as I started to look at things, I figured out for me that I had something about me that was different for a lot of people. I remember when I was little and my parents had raised me going to church. I heard this athlete speak in an FCA thing, and he talked, and I remember coming home to my mom and just saying to my mom, I'm gonna do big things. And I remember her saying, yeah, I know, Riley, I know. And I remember saying, no, Mom, you don't understand. Like, I'm gonna do big things. And I think from that point on, it really fueled me. I got lost in the culture of sports and the culture of what it means to be a man. And so, of course, I told my parents that they never have to work again because I was gonna be a professional athlete and take care of them and buy homes for them and do all those things. And as I got into a position, I really lost my identity in who I was in Christ when I moved from a bigger town to a little smaller town. And from there, I just got to a point where I didn't know who I was, and the only thing that really had an opportunity to grab me was sports. I was gifted in some things at a young age, and I just worked harder than anybody else. I just understood that for whatever reason. And so for me, it began at about 12 years old, and so sports just continued to wrap up into who I was. So I just wanted to be the best. I wanted to be better than everyone else, and I got to a place where my senior year of high school, I was a good football athlete, I was a good wrestler, and I came across a point where I didn't reach my goals in wrestling and reach a lot of my goals in football. So I just decided I want to go to a college where I could compete in wrestling, where I could step in and have an effect right away. So that's what I did. And so I chose a university and went there. And I remember sitting in class with one of the first days in college, and people asked me, what did you want to remember? How do you want people to remember you? And I remember saying, and I was so lost at the time, I just said, I want people to know that I'm the toughest guy on campus. And I didn't say it as like how normally some people would. Like, I really meant it. And I wanted to be different, and I wanted to do big things. I really wanted to be the biggest man on campus in a lot of ways. And so that fueled me. It got me. I was thrown in jail my first 2 weeks of college after Labor Day for fighting. God tried to get a hold of me a number of times, and I was just so persistent about my identity and what I wanted to be, and I wanted to be the greatest. And that little dream that God had put inside of me to do great things, I wanted to do myself. And it came to a point during my junior year where God just got a hold of me. I basically came to the end of myself, and this idea of Jesus being my Lord really came to the forefront. And I remember just being at a service and sitting in the back, and this guy speaking, this big tough guy from New York, talking about what it meant to be a man after God's own heart and to be somebody who was a Christian. And I remember just starting to weep in the back of the church, and they asked people to come forward, and I just said, God, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going in front of everybody because I don't want it to be fake. I don't want it to be somewhere it's just gonna be a flash in the pan. So I said, you got to send somebody back here to talk to me. So this guy, there was a college athlete, an older man, he just came up and just said, hey, can I pray with you? And from there, a relationship started with the person, and they really sewed into my life and sports and this idea of what it means to wrestle and all these different things. For me, it came to the forefront when I really just felt like it was too big in my life. I told Jesus, hey, I don't know if I can still be a college athlete, but still follow you. Like, I think about these things all day long. I've got pictures of all this stuff and all the things that have happened. I don't know if I can do that. So God brought me to a place where I just said, okay, I'll keep doing this because I know these men in my life don't know Jesus, and I want them to know the person that I know, and I want them to have the change inside of them that I had inside of me. And so I decided to stick with it for the next 2 years, and God blessed me by having great success. So I was on a national championship team, but I didn't reach my goals. But I told God, can you please fill my void? Fill my love for wrestling and for competing and all these things. Can you fill it with your love when I'm done with this? Because I have no idea how I'm not going to stop doing those things. And over the course of that time, I didn't reach my goals in college, but I started to figure something out. I had a teammate who ended up being a national champion, and he was my training partner. I trained with him every day, and I pushed him, and we pushed each other. And it was that relationship that's built with men that's not built anywhere else. And it's that covenant relationship where you do anything for somebody because you battle with them every single day. And probably the highlight of my career as an athlete was my friend, my brother, being a national champion. And I remember him standing on stage, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And even though my season, my career was done, I knew that was everything for him. And for me, I still had Jesus, and I could continue to walk on. And I had no idea what that looked like, but it really meant the world to know that somebody else did. So it set the pace and the tone for my life into what I do now, which is I'm built for others. I don't want to be in the limelight. The way that I train, the way that I do things with my athletes is really about them. And so I embrace what most people wouldn't in second place. That's who I am, and that's what I do. Is I understand that that's who Jesus was for me. There's a story that's always impacted me about Jesus, which is he stood in front of the people that brought him to trial, and they brought all these false witnesses and all these people, and from there they lied and they told him all these different things, and finally they came to a question. They said, "Tell us who you are, Jesus." And they said, are you the Son of God? Are you who you people say you are? And he said, "I am who I am." And they began to tear their clothes and yell and scream and say, "This is blasphemy." And they said this phrase, and it said, "This man is worthy of death." And for me, that translated over to who I get to be for other people. I get to be what Jesus was the only person, is the truest statement that they said the whole time, which was that Jesus really was worthy of death because all of us are worthy of death. And so for him, he stood in the place for us. And so when I get to do these things, I understand that in my marriage, in my relationships, I'm worthy of dying to all my selfish wants and needs and all those things. And I really get to be the person that builds others up, that does that puts them in a place where they have a chance to do that for their family and for their profession and what they do. Because this sport and what goes on and MMA and athletics as a whole is really about using everything you have for the betterment of others. And that's really who God made men to be in this world. And it's the reason I'm put here, is to model, to motivate, and to mold manhood through training. And that's why Higher Tactics was built. That's why I think that Lion Gear and what goes on here is really about that thing inside of us that wants to fight for others, that wants to battle, because there's people who don't have what we have. There's people that don't have people that have fought for them. And that's why we're in the place we're at in this world, is because people don't do that. Men don't step up to the plate and just say, "Hey, you know what, no more, no longer." And for me, I'm growing, I'm learning in that, and I don't know where I go from here, but I just know that I really am embracing, this idea of second place, of being not in the limelight, but behind the scenes. And I always want to be the biggest cheerleader. I'm clapping, I'm yelling, I'm enjoying everything with my people, and that's it. And that's how I do things. Because I really believe that at the end of the day, that's what Jesus does for us. As he stands back behind the corners and just says, "Hey, that's my son, and I'm proud."